Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Now, before we get on with the actual main event, I thought I'd share with you this poll I posted this morning. Now, it's only been going for a few hours, so not all the votes are in, but I basically asked the members of the group what price range of watch interests you the most and you feel the most comfortable buying. I listed a whole bunch of prices there in order of how many votes, and quite interestingly enough, $200 to $500 won by a staggering 181 votes. Now, bearing in mind there are currently 3,000 odd members, and this was only posted a few hours ago, but generally when voting happens, the general trend starts early and kind of follow, it would just be this but magnified by more votes. So I actually voted for 1,000 to 2,000. I think that's my sweet spot. That's what I like to spend on watches. Then third was 500 to 1,000 with 64 votes, 2,000 to 5,000 with 50 votes, and then of course we've got the big boys down here at 5. And quite surprising, there's my mate Marcus there. He voted 400. It's quite surprising. He has one of the most amazing collections ever, and he voted for one of the cheapest categories. I guess. Yeah, he's definitely a cool chap. And then, of course, the big ballers down at the bottom. 7 votes for 10 grand to 20. And then 3 for over 20 grand, which is quite funny. But anyway, quite a surprising result. Very enjoyable little poll. It'll be interesting to see how much further it develops. But generally speaking, the trend will follow what happens in the first few hours of the poll. A stack of comments, about 80 something comments on this particular post. A lot of people interested discussing prices, which is really, really cool. Now, enough of this Facebook. Oh, let's just get a close-up. Wristwatch check. Oh, hello, Day, heavenly little creature. Alright guys, that's enough of this Facebook stuff. Let's roll the intro and get on with the show. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. In this episode of Wristwatch Talk, we're going to be discussing, and I'm going to be sharing my top 5 sweet spots for finding the most affordable, best luxury watch in the used market. Now, obviously, we're not going to be discussing brand new watches. These are all used pieces. All the prices I'm quoting in this video are kind of collectively based on eBay, Chrono24, and prices I've seen in used luxury watch dealers, watch stores around, especially here in New York. So I'm doing this video basically in response to one of the most frequently asked questions, and that is people looking to buy their first luxury watch, but they don't want to spend, 5, 10, 20 grand. They want something that's attainable, and they often want a big brand name, a recognizable brand name like Omega, Rolex, Tudor, that kind of thing. So today I thought I'd throw together these 5 little sweet spots that I've kind of recognized that I've been noticing over my years of collecting, especially in the last year in the second-hand used market. So number 5 is consider buying a quartz luxury piece. Now, I know it's not as horologically interesting, or the true art form of watchmaking is not there, because quartz for newcomers to the channel is of course a battery operated watch, but you still can get a really beautifully made luxury piece that on the outside at least has that kind of luxurious quality that you're after. And you can buy some really great Rolex Oyster quartz. It's basically like a Datejust, only it's powered by battery. Between $2,000 to $3,000. It's about $1,000 cheaper on average than a mechanical automatic date just. Also take a look at the Seamaster 300, the Bond watch made famous by Pierce Brosnan in the 90s. You can get a quartz one of those from about $1,200 to $2,000. The case and the outside is exactly the same as the automatic version. The only difference is obviously it's got quartz in there. But basically at the end of the day, you're getting a luxury watch for less than $2,000. Okay, so moving on, number 4. Now this I've noticed especially in the last few years, and in fact I think there was a very good article recently from Ariel Adams at Blog to Watch about the Japanese market. Now the Japanese market is something that I keep going back to, and it's mainly because the Japanese really have an eye for meticulous detail, and they're famous for it. It's almost ironic really, they make some of the best and most technologically advanced watches in the world, but yet they're huge consumers of Swiss luxury pieces. You can find some great deals in Japan, and don't be afraid to buy from Japan. I've bought numerous Omega watches and I had them shipped to New York and my home in the United Kingdom, no problem whatsoever. Just be aware of income tax and all the rest of it. Make sure you figure that into the price, and you can get some really good deals. I love dealing with the Japanese because they really have a good eye. Their listings are unlike anything out there. As always, make sure the reputation of the buyer is 100%. There are some fantastic reputable sellers on eBay, and you can get some really nice Omegas, Rolexes, all the rest of it, Longines, you name it, they have it. And what I also like is they tend to go for the smaller sizes, which are less common in the used markets here in America, and you can get some very sweet deals indeed. They really look after their watches as well, and you can get some immaculate pieces. I bought a Speedmaster, an Omega Speedmaster from Japan, and it was brand new. Literally, you could hardly tell it had ever been worn, and it wasn't polished. It didn't need any servicing. It was almost brand new. And always check out the Japanese market. That is definitely a big sweet spot for, in the luxury used market. Okay, number 3 is vintage Omegas. I kind of touched on this a little bit with the quartz models. The soft spot here really is the Omega Geneve especially. You can also get some beautiful DeVilles and some 60s Madman era Omegas as well. That beautiful thin. Of course they're going to have a bit of patina, they're going to have a bit of wear because they're watches that are older than me at the end of the day, but the prices are fantastic. You can get an Omega Geneve for less than $1,000. Better the quality, the more you're going to pay. So we're talking about around about $1,000 to $2,000, anywhere in that ballpark. There's just so much variety. There's always tons on the market. The Omega Geneve especially is probably the best luxury watch at the cheapest price you're going to find around, especially the vintage Seamasters as well. So always have a look at used Omegas. But of course, as always, go with a reputable seller. You're really buying the seller, and it's a rule that I'll repeat all the way through this. You know, you're buying from the seller, make sure they're reputable, and you can get some really great deals. Okay, moving on to number 2. Number 2 is used Tudor watches. Now I currently am wearing my Tudor Day Date. Now this cost me just over $1,400. It's a two-tone gold and steel piece. It's absolutely stunning, really good condition. You see it's got a day date complication. Now Tudor, for those unfamiliar, is kind of the little brother of Rolex. It was founded at the same time, and Rolex actually make pretty much most of the parts. The only difference is on the inside they got a ETA movement, which is a cheaper import instead of the in-house Rolex movements that Rolex are famous for. So the outside is like a Rolex, but the inside is a little bit more affordable. Now that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. This is an outstanding watch. I was very lucky to get this. I'd had my eye on a day date for quite a while. And as you can see, I mean, the Rolex equivalent would be anywhere from 10 to 20 grand, depending on what model you get. It's a sweet spot. It really is a sweet spot. Always look out for Oyster prints dates. There's also the day date, as you see here, secondhand black bays, and also Tudor do a version of their own Submariner. Now the prices may vary. You can get a really good little Tudor prints date, which is basically a more economical version of a Rolex date just, for anywhere between $1,000 and 2 grand. You're getting that Rolex quality on the outside, that Rolex aesthetic, but with a more affordable and actually cheaper to service movement on the inside. Tudor is a brand on the rise. They're really coming out of the shadow of Rolex, especially with the recent contemporary releases, and they're really becoming their own thing. It's a brand on the rise, on the move. These vintage pieces, they're not making any more of them, so I think they're a good investment. When I do get bored of this piece, if I sell it, if I make any money, it'll be very interesting to see. So that was my number 2. Have a look at used vintage Tudor pieces, and actually contemporary second-hand Tudors as well. Okay, so what is my number 1 sweet spot in the used luxury market? Well, it's got to be the mid-sizes. Now, in the last decade, there's been a big trend for large, oversized, very masculine, kind of loud watches. But recently, especially in the last few years, there's been a shift back to more traditional mid-century, late 20th century sizes. I love it. I personally, I have very small wrists, so I prefer smaller watches. But there's a sophistication, there's an elegance, there's a kind of understated refinement in smaller watches. Now this is a 35mm diameter little Tudor here. Fits me like a glove. I absolutely adore it. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than the larger models. So always consider the mid sizes. If you've got smaller wrists, have a look at the mid-size Seamaster. A lot of people new to watch collecting or don't really know their stuff, they kind of disregard it as a woman's watch. Actually, the mid sizes are a man's watch. You'll see Prince William was famously given one by the late great Princess Diana. It's a mid-size quartz, I think it's a quartz Seamaster, and he's a big bloke, so there's nothing wrong with it. Also take a look at the Omega Speedmaster Reduced. It's 38mm, and you can combine it with my previous points. If you look at the Japanese markets, there's tons of mid-sized pieces because they tend to be a bigger consumer of the smaller pieces. Another one is Tudor Prince Dates, the 34mm version. Don't be afraid to look at 34mm. If you look back in the old days, smaller watches, you see Clark Gable, countless classic film stars of the mid-century wearing these tiny little 33mm Rolexes, 34mm even. It's almost like you've got to be quite manly to wear a smaller watch, Have a look at the mini sub, the Tudor mini sub. 36mm one is definitely a sweet spot and significantly cheaper, just like the Omega Reduced, just like a 34mm day date. But the number 1 deal here has to be the Rolex Air King. Now you can get these for less than $2,000, far cheaper than a Rolex Datejust. Well, you can find some older Rolex Datejust for under 2,000, but they're going to be kind of beaten up and they're not going to be as nice as an Air King. I love the Air King. You can get them in variety of sizes. Don't be afraid to consider the 34, 36mm versions. Some of them are quite contemporary. You can get one even from the 90s, and I think they're very desirable. A lot of the vintage pieces, you can even see them as an investment, and for less than 2 grand, who can argue? You're getting a Rolex for less than 2 grand. Who can argue with that? Okay guys, so that was my top 5 sweet spots in the used luxury market. I'd really like to hear yours. Please share them down below in the comments. Anything I may have missed out, particular sellers that you recommend, geographical markets that are very strong or have very good luxury watch offerings and prices. I'd really like to hear about that as well. So please share your opinions, thoughts, questions, queries, all the rest of it down below. As always, thank you very, very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, found it useful. It really does help me. And of course, I'll see you in the next one. Okay guys, ciao. They do fantastic pictures and they share every single... Pronto? Oh, va bella, come stai? No, guarda, fra mezz'ora. Ok. No, lo so. Ricordi quello che ha comprato il posto qui vicino? Ecco, ok, fra mezz'ora. Poi mangiamo, no? Sto lavorando. Io ho una fame incredibile, non ho mangiato niente oggi. Guarda, io ho un bottiglio di rosso, un altro di bianco, pino grigio, qualcosa, non mi ricordo. Ok. Mangiare la pasta senza parmigiano, ma che sei pazza? Oh! Ma che sei pazzo? Ti raccomando, non dimenticare il parmigiano. Ma che dici? Pago io. Pago io. Guarda, io devo andare, sto facendo questo video adesso. Stai attento. Ok, a dopo. Ciao, 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 ciao. Dreadfully sorry, I do apologize. Right, totally forgot what we're doing here.